the greatest economic comeback in our country's history is just getting started. Joining me now to discuss more is the president of the Convention of the States, Mark Meckler. Mark, thank you for joining the Pulse this evening. What are your thoughts on these absolutely incredible numbers that President Trump is getting barely 4 months in to his second term?
Yeah, it shows that the American people like what they see. And the reason they like what they see, David, is because this is a president who believes in keeping his promises. If you go to his Domestic Policy Council in the White House, and I've been there, they say they are the office of promises kept. And that's what Donald Trump is doing. He's stepping up for the American people domestically, economically, internationally. And the American people can't believe it because an actual politician is doing what he actually said he was going to do.
Yeah, it's a pretty rare occasion. I don't know that I can remember, other than his first term when he tried to do a lot and was hamstrung at every chance by Congress and the liberals and the Democrats. But it sure seems like this time there's a lot different momentum that he has behind him. You know, a recent YouGov poll shows a 19-point net increase in support for President Trump among voters ages 18 to 29. How in the world is that? They called President Trump everything from a racist to a fascist in the mainstream media. And now there's a huge surge in support among young American voters. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, I think these are some of the people who suffered the most under the Biden administration. Rents climbed 24% under the Biden administration, meaning literally if you had an apartment that was $1,000 a month, it's now $1,240 a month. People just can't afford to live. They can't afford to put gas in the tank. They can't afford to go out for drinks at a bar with their friends. And so these are the people that are struggling the most. They have the least faith in government. And Donald Trump is the least government-friendly president we've had in my lifetime. So they like him. They like what he's doing, and they believe that he's working for them.
Yeah, it can't hurt either that Trump shows up at UFC. You know, you've got everybody that's winning, that's giving their, homage and thanking President Trump, hopping over the fence. He hangs out with some pretty amazing people, and that crowd definitely sees it. What do you think? Why do you think there's such a divide in the country between people who support President Trump and all the old farts who spend their weekends protesting Tesla dealerships?
Yeah, it's really interesting, David, if you dig into the polling numbers, that's even where his support is weakest among Republicans, which is the oldest generation of Republicans. And I think they don't like his lack sometimes of gentility and just standards of politeness. But I think the younger you get, the more people know, look, they want a hands-on president. They want somebody who's going to upset the status quo, kick the table over, and do the things that are necessary to fix government. So I think that's what you see is people who are just, genteel in their politics, old school, blue blood Republicans. They might not like him so much, but the rest of the country, they like seeing the tables kicked over.
Yeah, I think they do, and I think they're probably still watching some of the old legacy media instead of watching my show or anybody else here on Newsmax. There's some other good news for President Trump. A new poll shows that his approval rating among Hispanic voters jumped 15 points in just the past month alone. He now has a 57% approval rating with Hispanic voters. Mark, Democrats thought that they had the Hispanic vote all wrapped up until the last few years. What do you think changed?
Yeah, there was a term or a phrase among Democrats, which was demographics is destiny, political destiny, they meant. What we see is a huge increasing Hispanic demographic in this country, and they're turning to President Trump, and specifically on his signature issues, which are the economy and border security. They like what they see in President Trump. They're voting for him in large numbers. And honestly, with this kind of a majority among Democrats, especially if Trump can transfer that to other Republicans, Democrats might spend a very long winter in the wilderness.
Yeah, well, I think they need to. I think the best shot there, Democrats are saying for House Committee Chair is Jasmine Crockett. I don't know how her and people like AOC and the Squad wind up leading the Democrat Party, but it sure seems that they do. I want to switch gears for a minute here. I want to get your reaction to the president's message for Vladimir Putin today on True Social. He wrote, quote, what Vladimir Putin doesn't realize is that if it wasn't for me, lots of really bad things would have already happened to Russia, and I mean really bad. He's playing with fire. How long can Putin afford to keep testing President Trump?
Well, hopefully not very long. I think, Trump's been very unbalanced in his approach to that conflict. And I understand why he's been going after Ukraine and their president, Zelensky, and trying to bring him into line. And he has pretty much nowadays, if he says to do something, Zelensky jumps and does it. But if we're going to end this war, it's going to take Putin, and that's going to take some serious pressure. He is a tough cookie with a big country, and it's going to take President Trump putting him in the headlock and bringing him to the table if it's going to get done.
Yeah, I know there was there was stories out that there was a potential assassination attempt with a drone that was being blamed on Ukraine and Zelensky. Did anything ever come out of that actually proving that was the case? Is that maybe why some of the retaliatory actions that Putin has taken over the last week have taken place as well? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I haven't seen any proof about that, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, obviously, Ukraine is fighting for its existence, and they need to fight hard if they're going to win. And the thing that Putin really can't afford is the U.S. to step in vigorously on the side of Ukraine and sort of let them use the weapons they want to use it. I saw today that the EU, the nations in Europe, have agreed to remove distance limitations on the weaponry they provide to Ukraine. That means Moscow is now a target. Major Russian cities are now targets. So I think this thing's going to open wide up if Putin doesn't step in line.
So do you think that there's still a possible agreement for peace that can take place between Ukraine and Russia?
I do. I think it's probably going to come, and it's going to come from us putting more pressure on Russia. I think that means militarily, not that we're going to get involved or put boots on the ground. So we're just going to continue the flow of arms to Ukraine. We're going to allow them to use them the way they want. Putin is a smart guy, and he's taken territory. He's got pretty much what he wanted at the beginning of the war. I think what we're going to see is a status quo settlement. They're going to probably get to keep the territory that they already have, and Ukraine's going to get some security guarantees, and I think we'll see status quo for a while to come in the future when this thing ends.
Now, what about if America was to just pull out of the Ukraine war altogether? Do you think Russia could just completely take over?
That would be up to the Europeans, though. If we pulled out immediately, the Europeans cannot provide the kind of armaments that the United States can, and likely Ukraine would collapse. If we pulled out slowly, the Europeans seem to be getting more serious about Ukrainian defense, Germany, especially Poland as well. That means they might be able to fill the gap, but it would take some time. If we pulled out altogether, I'm pretty sure that the tanks would roll and they'd end up in Kyiv, and that would be that.
Yeah, it sure seems like it. And I'm sure Zelensky knows that, and hopefully that's exactly why he's listening to our commander-in-chief like it seems like he is. Mark Meckler, appreciate your insights, sir. Thank you for joining the Pulse tonight.
Thank you.